Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I'm here at the place where I keep my machine, and what I got to do today, or what I'm going to try to do, is tighten this track up here. Um, we were on the job site we were on last. We noticed I did one of those pivot in place rotation turns, contra rotation, whatever you call it, and the bottom of that track was coming off the roller, so you could tell it's got slack in it, obviously. I could probably actually kind of lift it a little bit. So I'm gonna try to tighten that up, but I need to dump that bucket out because I don't like when water sits in the bucket. We're supposed to be getting more rain here in a little bit, but um, what I was gonna do is I've got a couple of questions from a few people about, you know, demolition and this industry and stuff like that. Um, and I get a lot of questions about renting machines and all that good junk. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a little short video because, like I said, we got rain coming in here soon. I don't know how much battery I got on this camera. I don't want to take up too much time, but just kind of give you a little background about how I got started in demolition and what it's like, and just some things that may be pertinent or whatever to people who are looking to get into the demolition industry. So, how I got started, um, sort of a long story, but I'll condense it as much as possible. I was working at an architectural products company. I have a degree in computer drafting, so I started my first business designing custom homes, and I was still working for the architectural product company, and I was, designing my homes or whatever. Um, and so I enjoyed it, but I didn't like sitting in the office all day. So I knew I wanted to do something in the construction industry, but I didn't necessarily want to build homes. I don't, I've grown up. I come from a family of contractors, constructors, or construction workers, or whatever. So we were always building stuff. I didn't really like the building part of it, but I did enjoy the tearing down of stuff. So as I was sitting at work one day, I was thinking, like, I want to get out of this office. I want to get out of this, but what do I want to do? And so I started thinking about demolition. And I actually researched it for about a year before I actually, took the step to actually do demolition. Um, some people may think that I just kind of jumped into it, and I really didn't. I researched it for quite a while. And um, back in 2016, I made the decision that I wanted to start my own demolition company. And like I said, there's a whole lot more that goes with this, but um, I saved up my money, and that's kind of important because I know a lot of people, um, you know, they think that I'm living, or I started all this with, my parents' money or anything like that. I didn't. My parents are retired, and so by the time I started demolition, both of them were retired, and I, didn't use their money to do any of this. So that's kind of important, just because I know a lot of times it's one of those deals where people see a young guy like me. I'm only 35, and they think, oh well, he must have gotten something from somebody. I started it all on my own, so I saved up my money, and I started the business name, filed all the paperwork with the state, and then I went and looked into renting equipment. So my credit score was good enough that Sunbelt Rentals let me set up an account with them, and so I set up the account with them, and got insurance and everything like that. Didn't have a job yet, but I knew what I wanted to do. So my family had two houses in Ravenna that they wanted to get torn down, and so I did those jobs for free. Actually, I only charged them $600 to do the job. Granted, the machine that I used ended up being $1,800, so I was in the hole by $1,200 basically. It was actually a little bit more than $1,800, but so I did that, and the reason why I did that was because I needed something to show people. So I had a website, and I needed something to show people. We live in a day and age where you have to show people you know what you're doing. You can't just tell them that you know how to do it. So put the pictures and stuff like that up on the website, and hope for the best. And then in January of 2017, we got a call from the city of Princeton, and they wanted us to bid a job, and we got awarded that job. After that job, that was my first official job. After that job, we got a call from the YMCA in Greenville. They had a pool collapse in the ceiling, and so we ended up doing that job. And then from there, everything else just kind of started falling into place. And so we've been as far as, Oklahoma, down to Houston. I mean, I tell people all the time, I will go if it doesn't really matter what state or whatever it's in, under certain conditions. If it's worth my time, then I'll go there. And as long as I don't need like licensing and stuff like that, because I know some states are really, really strict on licensing. It's one of the good things about Texas. You don't have to have a license to do most construction work except for HVAC, plumbing, and electricity. But I don't deal with explosives or nothing like that, so it's not that big a deal. So that's the general gist of how I got started in demolition. And so the rest of it's just history. After that, as far as what demolition is like, it's fun. It's very stressful though, and I'm not saying that to deter anybody from doing it who wants to do it, but I am just going to let you know it's really stressful. There have been jobs where, like for instance, the job in Oklahoma, in the middle of downtown Ardmore, Oklahoma, where you got this 110, 14, whatever year old building. The mortar in the bricks was so weak that you could literally push the bricks with your hand, if you smack them a few times, and they would come undone. Now, you have to take that building down with a building on the left-hand side of you that you can't let the brick fall on that building. You can't let it fall out in the street because traffic is still going. It can't fall to the other side, to your right-hand side, because you got power lines right there, and it can't fall behind you because you have another business right behind you. So it's real precise a lot of times, but it gets kind of stressful. And some of the things that'll stress you out, especially if you're renting in the beginning, is weather. Case in point, you look at the ground here, and it's just completely muddy. And when you're renting equipment, they give you a certain number of days to rent it, and you get a certain number of free days, so to speak. But that still sometimes doesn't cover it. And the cost of the rentals is, for all intents and purposes, pretty high when you compare. I'll give you for instance, my machine here. I'm not going to tell you what I bought it for, but I'll just tell you the monthly payment on it is right at $1,000. Okay, so that may seem like a lot, but it's really not, because the 18,000-pound excavator that I used to rent from Sunbelt, that one ended up being, you keep it for, let's just say 2 days, and I'm already in the hole for $1,500, or $1,800 right there just for 2 days. And the thing about that is it's per job, so you do that per job. This thing here, I've got it for a month, so I pay one payment on it a month, and I've got 4 weeks, to get jobs. That same excavator that I rented from Sunbelt, and this is a true statement, we did a job and we had to keep it for 2.5 weeks and rent a jackhammer. The total on that job ended up being, for the excavator alone, was about $6,400, and that's with discounts and everything like that. So you look at $6,400 for 2.5 weeks versus $1,000 per month. That means I could have had this machine if I'd had a means. Back then I didn't have the means, so I just did what I had to do. But if I had the means, I could have kept this machine and made 6 monthly payments on it towards owning it, before I even got, or 6 monthly payments basically would have been less than what the $6,400 for 2.5 weeks on that 18,000-pound machine. So that's one of the big stressors of demolition, or two of the big stressors. One is cost of equipment, and two is you get some projects that are just so, like, they have to be done perfectly. It's one of those residences are easy. Most of the time you just make sure you don't go on the neighbor's lawn or anything like that. All your utilities are disconnected and you're good. Commercial stuff can be a little bit more stressful, and oftentimes is more stressful. So it's fun, but it is stressful. So just bear that in mind. I can't say I could think of any anything else that'll really get on your nerves more than the cost of demolition renting and stuff like that. Other than vendors and stuff like that who may be taking their time, or you're on a schedule, you're trying to get something done, and they're just kind of piddling around. I haven't had that happen many times, but you do have situations where you need them to bring you some dumpsters or something like that, and you're on the job site and you've got the building torn down or whatever, and you're ready to load out, and they get stuck somewhere, or they tell you, oh well, we got to head back to so and so, and then we'll be your way. So it'll take us about 2.5 hours to get there, and you're like, well, what am I going to do for 2.5 hours? It's a lot easier when you own your equipment because, like I said, you make that monthly payment, you just turn the machine off and you can chill. When you're renting, you're on the clock, and every single second that machine is out there, you're being charged for it. Those are probably the two biggest stressors that I've had as far as demolition goes. Now, in terms of danger on demolition, the dangers of demolition, everything. There's not one thing. The safest part of demolition, the two safest parts of demolition are driving to the job site before, like when you bid it, and you're walking through the building. And sometimes that's not even dangerous or safe. And when you have finished the job and you are walking, driving away from the building, or from the job site. That's the safest part of demolition. Everything in demolition is a danger. Even the equipment. You see the excavator here, and to get into it, if you're not very flexible, or if you're a bigger guy or whatever, sometimes you have to stand up and get your leg up on top of the tracks. You've got the bar, the step bar right there on the undercarriage, but with those wide pads like that, sometimes your foot will get caught on the pads as you're bringing it up, and you can slip off the tracks and fall before you even get into the machine. Obviously, buildings falling are a hazard, but some of the hazards that you don't really think about is, even with like a residence, when you get to smashing the house, just with the bucket teeth or whatever, these machines generate a lot of destructive power. I'll put it like that. A lot of digging force and whatever. So just crunching up wood sometimes can create unknown hazards, such as flying debris and stuff like that. You think it's not that big a deal, but when you go to really smash into the wood to either push a roof in, or punch a wall or something like that, or even just crunching up the material, you have debris that gets hit, bent, and flies, and I've had it several times. You're reaching out and you're smashing the stuff like this, and then a piece of wood will fly up in the air and go 30-40 feet away from you, and sometimes pieces of wood will come back and hit the cab. So little stuff like that you don't think is a big deal, but it is a big deal. What else? Rebar in the ground. Anytime you got rebar, that's gonna be a hazard, not just for you walking or anybody else walking, but it's also a hazard for the machine. Depending on where the rebar is located and how tall it is and stuff like that, it can rip hoses. It can get caught in between the open spaces of the bucket, the thumb. It can get caught under your undercarriage. It can get caught in your tracks, and you're just going along, and next thing you know, you've knocked a track off, or you've ripped a hose from rebar. So I hate rebar, to be honest with you. I like its purpose in buildings, but I hate it in terms of demolition. The best thing is when you get a foundation that you have to rip up, and it's got nothing in it but concrete. So that's a beautiful thing. But everything on demolition, insulation, fiberglass, dust, asbestos, mold, animals, rodents, pests, stuff like that. You go to some houses and whatnot, and they've got rats and raccoons and bees. That's somewhat of a big deal. We've torn down several houses where, fortunately, I've been in the machine with the cab, the door closed, AC on, and when my dad is with me, he's on the other side and just letting me do my thing. And you punch into the roof, and next thing you know, a swarm of bees come out and they attack the machine. And so Little stuff like that. Stuff you don't think about. Raccoons, snakes, all that kind of stuff can be inside of houses and buildings that you tear down. So all those things can be a danger. You have to watch out for all of that stuff. Protect your lungs, especially your eyes. Your basic PPE type stuff. We do jobs. We don't necessarily have to wear vests unless we're doing commercial jobs. But just around the residences and stuff like that. My dad usually sits in the truck or is far enough away. I can always see him, and I usually just take care of everything with the machine here. But you know, the best way I could put it to you is everything is a hazard. Everything is a danger in demolition. Um, you know, I, if you can think about it, it's probably a danger. So the cost of demolition varies job to job. Residences are more than likely going to cost you a lot less than commercial jobs are going to cost you. But again, it's all contingent on whether or not you're renting your equipment and whether or not you have your own dump trailers. If you have to use guys like these guys here, Brandon Reinhardt and his guys, I've used them in the past. Now they've gotten so busy now with their sand and gravel business that they don't really do any of my hauling anymore. But I've used them, have really good rates. But like I said, it all just depends on what connections you have and what you're actually doing, what you're actually tearing down. It can be, I'll just say it like this: the return that you could potentially get doing demolition is pretty high. It's a very lucrative business. It's a very regulated business, but if you're just starting, those returns will quickly be eaten up by the expenses, and it takes a while to accumulate those investments that you need, such as equipment and reputable vendors or whatever, to be able to see those positive returns. But you can get it. I feel actually kind of proud of myself because I was watching a guy on YouTube. He was in Australia. He started a demo business, him and two or three of his friends, and it took him 15 years before they could purchase their first excavator. It took me just over 4, actually 3, about 3 and some change or whatever, before I could purchase my own excavator. So I'm kind of proud of that. But like I said, the cost of demolition it varies. It's very expensive. Your dumpsters are typically here in Texas. I can only speak for Texas, but here in Texas, what we look at in terms of 30 and 40 yard dumpsters, average price is going to be about $500 to $600 per dumpster for the 30 yards. Now, I have seen some companies that offer 30-yard roll-offs for $800 or $900 here in Texas. And then I've seen some that offer 40-yard roll-offs for $500 or $600. So it just varies and depends on who the company is, but that all plays into the cost of quoting jobs and stuff like that. And as far as quoting your jobs, obviously you have to factor in everything. Equipment cost, fuel, insurance for your machinery, insurance for your business. Dumpsters or whatever, depending on what you're hauling off. If it's debris, you got to factor dumpsters. If it's concrete, you probably are better off finding truckers like this that can haul it for you. You don't really want to haul loads of concrete in a dump trailer if you don't have to, because they're not as strong. They are less stable on the highway carrying that much load in a pickup truck, and you'll be forever trying to move that stuff back and forth. But you do what you have to do. So, and then of course you have to factor in, kind of a profit for you as well. And don't let anybody tell you what you should make. I had somebody tell me one time, they were like, "Well, how much do you think you're going to make on this job if you bid it at this price?" And I told them, I think it was like $1,000 or something like that. And that was like $700. That's what it was, like $700. And they said, "Well, that's good, and that's decent." In a general sense, yeah, it's good to make money, but in terms of this business here, that's not going to get you very far, because your next job, you think, okay, I made $700 profit, on this job, but you bid $6,000, and so $5,400 or $5,300 in expenses with a $700 profit is not really good. And um, and I told him, I said, it sounds good. It's good to make a little money, yeah, but that's not going to get me very far because I have more jobs that I need to do. So I need to make sure that I have enough money to take care of my, further expenses and kind of grow the business, or whatever. So, um, that's like I said, the cost of it's going to be one of those deals where you just kind of have to work it out yourself. I can't speak for other states and whatnot, but I'll just say it's fairly expensive. You have to be very disciplined, um, mentally, and very good with finances to be in the demolition industry, or you'll blow your money. You'll go out of business quick. So, um, like I said, I'll leave that up to anybody who watches this to figure out their own cost or whatever. Now, some of the issues that you're going to have, and this directly affects your cost, is with residences. The profit margin is much lower than with commercial because residences are usually people who just work 8 to 5s. They're not, investors or big companies that are looking to build, Walmarts or something like that, and they need you to knock down, an old factory. Um, so one of the biggest issues, I'll say, this is probably the biggest issue, and that gets on my nerves more than any of the other issues, and that is with a lot of these residences, what you get is what I call hot shotters, and these are guys that aren't really looking to start a demo business. They just want to make a little extra money for the weekend or something like that. And so, as a for instance, someone will say, I've got a 2,000 square foot house, pier and beam, um, and I need a quote on it. So you give them a quote, and just throwing a random number out there, and let's just say you say, 9,500. That's dumpsters, that's equipment, that's everything we need to get it done. And what your profit margin is going to be at that rate. So you're not being greedy, but you're being realistic. So you say 9,500, and then they come back and they tell you, oh, okay, well, I was told it was only going to cost about 3,500 to do that, and it's like, no. And I've had that happen several times, and so it's like $3,500 to tear down a 2,000 square foot pier and beam house. I mean, you're going to spend 3,500 or more in dumpsters alone. It's going to cost you a couple of grand, $2,000, just to get the equipment out there. Um, but what it is you got guys who don't care about doing it as a business. They just want to make a little extra money on the side. So they'll come in and they'll tell people, oh, it only costs this much to do it. Now, they do one of two things. Either they take everything out to somebody's property and burn it, or they dump it illegally all over, the city in back alleys and stuff like that. We've got several places here in Greenville that have um, alleyways and stuff like that, just trash everywhere. People dumping stuff. One guy tried to dump all his crap on one of my dad's properties and got stuck in the mud and realized, fortunately no charges were pressed, but um, that's kind of what ends up happening. Or they either don't have equipment, or they do a really shoddy job. I had one person ask me to quote him a job. I gave him a fair quote for it, and they were out in the middle of nowhere. And I even told him, I said, what I can do is strip the house down, and it'll just be wood. We can get all the sheetrock and all that, the wire, carpet, everything out of it, take all that to the landfill, and then we'll just take the wood, and since you're in the middle of nowhere, we can just burn the wood for you, and you'll be good to go. And so what ended up happening was there was another guy that came in, spooked the living crap out of this particular client, and told them that if we took the burn route and burn the lumber or burn the wood or whatever you want to call it, the way he made it sound was that helicopters were going to be flying around, the president was going to be out here. I mean, EPA is going to be all over you, and the government's going to be here, and this, that, and the other, blah blah blah, and they've got guys that just ride around spying on people and seeing what they're doing and stuff like that. So suffice it to say, he spooked the crap out of her, offered her a much lower price, did a horrible job on the job, and she ended up regretting her decision later on. And so, And I know, not a lot of people can burn stuff, and we can't burn everything on every job. But when we're out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country, and there's acres and acres around you and no other homes, it just makes sense. So, um, and I know this is kind of controversial to some people. A lot of the people who are against burning, but if you do it right, I wouldn't say there's a such thing as a clean burn, but if you're just burning wood, it's essentially the same as burning trees. Only a small percentage of the home is actually treated lumber. The rest of it's untreated, so it's not that big a deal. But that's one of the biggest issues, I could say, is that you just got people who want to make a quick buck, and they will undercut the price so much that it makes it sometimes really, really hard to be competitive, with these guys. And they'll say, "Oh, well, we found a guy who could do it for, 2,500," and you're thinking, "How the heck is he gonna do it for 2,500?" But you can't ask him that. So that's probably the biggest thing. So um, storm clouds look like they're rolling in. A little bit, we still got a little bit of sunshine, but this is Texas, and I'm pretty sure uh, I'll be out here talking, and then 3 minutes later it'll just start pouring down rain. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up. The last thing I wanted to kind of touch on, I see this in a lot of other people's videos. There's a lot of demo videos on YouTube, and it seems like the number one comment is uh, it's more or less a hateful comment. It's like, why didn't you save the house? Why didn't you recycle this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm going to touch on this. And again, this may be controversial to some people, but I can speak on it because I'm in this business and I've been doing it, and I've tried to do, the same thing that I'm about to speak on, which is save and or recycle everything in the house. You can't. You can't do it. A lot of times, and I'll just touch on one point. I'll do one at a time. Number one, a lot of people say, "Oh, that was such a beautiful house. You should have saved it." I agree. Some of them are beautiful, but what a lot of the people don't see who watch the videos, y'all don't see what we see, and as such, some of the houses look really good from the outside. Some of them are, you know, some of them I've seen. I'm like, I don't want to take this down. It looks really good. You walk inside of it, and you quickly see that, when you peel back the layers of the onion, or just open the front door for that matter, it's not as good as what you think it is. And uh, case in point, the last house that I tore down looked really good on the outside. Talked to the guy. He said he got 3 quotes, and I think it was close to $200,000 to get it repaired. Or they could just tear it down and move the mobile home in for a fraction of that cost, which is what they wanted to do anyway. A lot of times, what you see in a home is not what the contractor sees, and it's not what you think it is. It may look good from the outside, but there could be serious problems with it. Some of them look perfect. Some of them have gone through extensive flood damage that's going to cost more than what the house is worth to fix them. So I'm only saying that just because that's one of the comments that I see all the time, and being in this industry, I can speak for a lot of the demo contractors who also have to deal with that as well. You can't save every house, no matter how good it looks. You can't save it, not all of them. And more or less, the client has already tried to save it before you came in. He's already exhausted all of his options, and economically, it's not feasible for him or her. So, that's when they call us to take it down. As far as recycling everything, I don't know how it is in other states, but here in Texas, recycling a lot of this stuff is far more expensive than just taking it to the landfill. Case in point, we did a job where we had vinyl siding, we had carpet, we had wood. We took the house down by hand. The reason we took it down by hand was so that we could recycle everything on the house. We called up the recycling company and talked to them and got quotes. And I said, we got some vinyl siding. We didn't want to throw it in the landfill. We got some wood. What do we need to do to recycle it? How much it's going to cost? The landfill here was $45.21 per ton at the time. The landfill in Melissa, Texas, which is uh, going that direction towards McKinney, is it was $32 a ton. The landfill over in Garland, Texas, is about 38 or something like that. So we knew the price of the landfill. Well, the recycling company that we talked to, they were going to charge me $45 per ton or per trailer load of vinyl siding, regardless of how much it weighed. And the drywall, they wanted to charge another 30 or 40 bucks per trailer load for that. So basically every individual item had a cost associated with it. So if I had taken that route, I would have spent several $1,000s trying to get this stuff recycled, as opposed to just taking it to the landfill. So we didn't take it to the recycling place. We took it to the landfill. The wood, the lumber, I had called Habitat for Humanity. Now they will pick it up, but their requirements are pretty stringent. And so one of the things they said was there can't be any nails or staples in it. There can't be any broken edges, like where the studs sit on the seal plate. If you hit it with a hammer, sometimes you'll kick that edge out of it. It looks like somebody took a bite out of it. They can't have any of that. They all have to be palletized, and palletized by like sizes. So all your 8-foot studs have to be on one pallet, 10-foot, 12-foot, and so on and so forth. And they 2x6s and 2x4s. Everything has to be palletized. So by the time, and the guy even at Habitat even told me, he's like, by the time you get done doing all that and making sure all that's taken care of, it may not even be worth the time that you're going to spend doing that. You'll be better off just getting rid of it. Especially since it's a demo job. And he told me, he said we will take wood, but we prefer brand new lumber. So recycling is not a bad thing, but it's not as easy as what people think. And a lot of people think, oh, you should have went in and got the doors, you should have went in and got the windows, you should have recycled the entire house. Why did y'all demo it? You should have just recycled it. That sounds good, but for the contractor, like, we have to eat too. We have to make a business, and it's not feasible economically, financially. Sometimes, most of the time, it's not feasible to do that. Now, on a big job, the two things that you will find beneficial to recycle: concrete and metal. Concrete usually can be recycled for free, and obviously they've got plenty of those places around. And scrap metal, you get paid to recycle it. Everything else, you get charged a ton or more, a lot basically, to recycle it. And so on a residence, people aren't going to bid much on a residence. They're going to, like I said, you got the hot shot guys that come through and tear up the market. And so, what it actually costs, they don't want to pay that, because they've been told by, Joe Blow that it only costs $3,000 to do a 2,500 square foot house. And so they're going to run with that. The cheaper the better, but not always. And so what you end up having is a residence that may pay a maximum of $7,500 for a given size house, okay, or $6,000. You got to get your equipment out there. So let's just say that's $2,000 off the top right there. And that's equipment, gas, and all this, or fuel, diesel, whatever, all this other junk. So now you've got $4,000 to play with, and you got to get dumpsters and this, that, and the other. But if you try to recycle that stuff, you can't. You might as well not even get the equipment out there, because you have to take it down by hand, and it's going to take more than one guy to take it down by hand. So the time that you're going to spend, if that's all you're going to do, like if you're just a hot shotter and that's all you're going to do, and the client doesn't have a requirement on time, then that may work. But a lot of times you have to move on to the next job. You have other stuff that you have to do. You can't be on the job site for, a week and a half or 2 weeks on a house, tearing it down by hand, piece by piece. So like I said, it sounds good, and I don't have a problem with people that recycle. I don't have a problem recycling myself. Um, but in terms of trying to recycle an entire house, you know, it doesn't work. Like I say, it works for large commercial stuff, brick, concrete, steel and stuff like that. And and it may even work on the bigger commercial projects, because when you can bid, $2.5 million for a job, well then yeah, it's easy to recycle that stuff, because your costs are your profit margin and everything is so much higher than with just residences. Then so I would say I'll modify what I just said and say that on large commercial projects it may work. It'll probably work for you. It's like on residences, I'm not gonna tell you not to do it, but if you've got the time to do it and you are just that gung ho on doing it, do it. But just know that it's going to cost you a lot of time, and it may even cost you more money to recycle it. And there's been debate, on this. They've done research on this. I read articles from guys at I think it was like Harvard and stuff like that, and they had interviewed people about this whole thing, and the general consensus was that recycling a lot of this stuff costs way more than it does to just take it to a landfill. So again, like I said, I know that's pretty controversial to a lot of people. I may even get a little bit of flack for saying that, but I can speak on it because I'm in the business. I'm not, just what people on YouTube call a keyboard contractor, or keyboard operator, or keyboard warrior. People who just kind of bandwagon and fall in with the crowd because everybody's saying, do this or do that, and then they hear it and realize, oh, that's somewhat of a powerful thing. I want to be a part of that without doing the research on it. So yeah, that's why I can say it, because I've tried to do it several times and it didn't work. And it's not like you can just say, oh well, we're gonna recycle everything, so this is why we're gonna charge you $14,000 because we're gonna recycle all this stuff, and it's gonna cost me quite a bit to recycle this. Case in point, carpet. I bid a job one time. I didn't get the job because we tried to recycle the carpet and called the company, and I forgot the name of the company, but we called them up. They were right over in Dallas, and they wanted to recycle it. We wanted to recycle the ceiling tiles as well. Same thing. They gave me quotes and stuff like that, and the quote for carpet recycling was about $12 to $1,500 or something like that, just to recycle it. Or I could just throw it in a dumpster and take it to the landfill for $45. So it doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. So and I think the price to recycle those ceiling tiles was upwards of $3,600 on this particular project. Or I could crush them down, take them to the landfill. Maybe 2 or 3 trips, and I've only spent $90 or $135 or whatever the case may be. So it's one of those deals. Use your own discretion. If you swear up and down by recycling, then I say do whatever makes you happy, and if you can justify it with the cost, then do it. But to those people who are not in demolition, who don't do it, I would say don't be so quick to tell the contractor what they should or should not be doing, because you're not in their shoes and you don't know what they bid or what they were awarded the job for. You don't know what the budget on the project is, so you don't know if they have the means to recycle it. You don't know what the cost of recycling is in that person's state or country or whatever the case may be. So, anyway, on that, it's getting a little bit darker out here, so I think I'm gonna try to go. I may try. I haven't started this thing up. We had that freeze come through and got pretty cold, down to like 1 degree, but it felt like it was in the negative teens. So I haven't started this thing up since the last job. So I'm gonna start it up and probably move my car, rotate it around, see if I can pick it up and pump a little grease into those tracks and just kind of see if they'll tighten up. Hopefully the cylinder in that idler is not gone, or gone bad or whatever. I'm gonna have to replace that, but yeah, I'm gonna do that. So anyway, just kind of wanted to make that video. So I ran out of battery on the camera, but yeah, I was just saying that anybody wants to get into this business, that's kind of the general gist of what you're gonna have to deal with. And it's not a bad business to be in, but just be prepared because it is very expensive. You can yield some very high returns and very high profits, but it's not going to come without a cost. So anyway, like I said, I'm gonna try to rotate this thing around. I'll probably have to move my car and pull the bucket over this way and set it right here and pick this side of the machine up off the ground so I can tighten this track up, and hopefully that cylinder in there is not bad in the idler. I'll have to replace that. But anyway, choo-choo. Anyway, until the next one, we've got a job coming up this coming week. We just got to get all the permit and stuff like that. It's just another residence, but any jobs that I get, I usually try to share them with you guys, and also I wanted to say, at the time of making this video, I have 213 subscribers. I know that's not a lot, but I just want to say thanks to everybody that has subscribed to this channel. The purpose of me putting up a channel was not necessarily to make millions of dollars on YouTube, like some of the famous YouTube couples and stuff like that. It was simply a way of showcasing my work in a better manner than taking pictures, and it's kind of like promotion, and so just kind of gets the word out there. So that's really, the demolition business is my primary source of income, but the YouTube channel is not my primary source. I don't even get paid for YouTube, but I just enjoy putting it out there for you guys to see. So thanks to everybody that subscribed, and if you guys want to see something else, see me doing something else, I'm trying to switch camera angles and stuff like that, and as soon as I can find somebody that can fly a drone, I'm gonna buy me a drone and have them fly it as I tear down some of these things or whatever. And so we'll see how it goes or whatever, and I don't know, we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, I'm gonna try to get this track tightened up. And I was thinking I was gonna say something else right then and there, but and I was gonna talk about this machine here. I was talking earlier about purchase and stuff or whatever, but I'll save that for another video. But anyway, y'all have a good week, and like I said, I'll see y'all sometime this week when we go to Trenton, and we'll get that house torn down and we'll get it online for you guys.